just like you and I are sharing our stories, like, we're always happy to help kind of maybe have people allow people to jump over the potholes that we got stuck in. So maybe they can be more successful or as successful, but faster.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Ego, the biggest enemy of the startup founders. I'm glad that you brought this up, Justin, because I was one of them, right? I mean, we all have ego because we are entrepreneurs. We think that we can do better. So let's start that. The fact that you're an entrepreneur, you have your ego is is at the above level of the standard.
Right.
However, however, the challenge, Justin, is exactly what you just described. Is when somebody's gonna come and tell you your baby's ugly, how you react to that. It will determine the success and the failure of the startup. Is a key player. So for me, I remember that when I started my business, I didn't listen to anybody. I was thinking I'm a big deal, and everybody had to do what I say. I don't trust anyone. I had to do everything myself, and I was so exhausted, so tired, so angry. But when I surrendered that ego and I started to listen to people and I start to bring the people from my team and open up, something amazing happened. The employees that were better than me at everything, to the point one day I arrived to the office and sent me home, told me don't need me anymore.
Right.
So Justin, when do you have this breakthrough? Because you're coming from corporate, okay, and now you are an entrepreneur. We're going to talk about later about this. So how you knew that that ego that you have that make you the drive to start the business, also you have to surrender to it in order to progress. Tell us a little bit more about this transformation.
Yeah, I think for me, I guess I'll start out with I grew up in a really small town in a rural part of Pennsylvania. So my kind of I never was around kind of quote unquote true entrepreneurs, and my kind of outlook on kind of the job and what I was supposed to do was you go to college, you get a good job, you invest in your 401k, hope you've got enough money when you retire at 65 or 70. And around kind of 2017, 2018, I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that really kind of flipped a little bit of a switch in my brain around because I was marching down that path. I had been in the recruitment world. I was in corporate America. I had a good job, and I was married. My wife had a good job, so we were doing the things that we were supposed to do. And then this book talked a lot about investing differently, and that means investing your money and investing your time and energy in different things outside of anybody working for a company. You are essentially helping that owner of that company, whether it's an investment company or a person, make a lot of money, right? Because you are helping them build their business. And so I was like, well, why am I helping somebody else build a business? Why don't I go out and start something that I'm passionate about, and start a business? So I've been in recruiting my entire career. So I was like, why not go down that path? Because that seemed the easiest and the most logical. But it took me a few years to really change my mindset away from being a 9 to 5 W-2 employee, because both my wife and I are very risk averse, and so I'm not the type of person that just takes a jump without knowing kind of where I'm going. So we spent about a year and a half really building not only our mindset, but building our financial foundation so that when I decided to kind of quit my job, that we felt as financially comfortable as we possibly could, so that if something bad happened in the first year, I didn't make a lot of money or it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, we weren't going to completely decimate our savings and completely ruin our kind of financial future. Little did I know that quitting a six-figure job in 2020, January of 2020, to start a recruiting business was going to be arguably one of the worst times to start a recruiting business, right as COVID was starting and all the world was shutting down and nobody was hiring. That was definitely not even part of my worst case scenario planning. But luckily we did the things that we did in the year before I jumped out to kind of make sure that that year, while it was terrible for a lot of reasons and for a lot of people, it didn't completely destroy our financial lives. And we're still around. The business is still growing, and it's doing well. So
So transition from corporate to entrepreneurial. I think a lot of a big part of our audience, they are what we call it cash rich, time poor,
mm,
and some of them they are listening this broadcast. And by the way, this book also the Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, it was the book that I read, and also kind of a similar story and transformed my life. It was a key element for me to start our property business. We managed to sell over 5 million. So, however, uh, a lot of people listen the broadcast and from corporate, and they say, "Wow, that's amazing what Justin did. He managed to move on from the corporate life, which is a six-figure income, and save between brackets, but let's call it like that, and take and take a risk and open the business. But as you described, Justin, and this is what we want to for clarification to the audience, you said that you are someone that is very risk averse, and I agree with you, right? The transition, some of our listeners, they want to do the transition between corporate to being an entrepreneur. But here's a few things that you just described, and I agree with you. Number one, you prepared the foundation, right? Um, when I was working as a room service attendant in London in the Hilton, parallel, I was starting my business. I didn't have a six-figure corporate job, but it was kind of the same thing, Justin. You keep doing your work, and on the weekends or when you have free time, you start to prepare that foundation to prepare these, when you can call it product market fit, to what product you want to offer there, to see somebody want to buy it. And then maybe you have some saving, you buy two, three properties, or something that can give you some of the financial stability. So then when you quit your job, even look how well you prepared this, that even the worst time on the planet arrive for someone to start a business, and you survive, and you're
yeah.
still in business. So how clever and how well done has been this foundation that you created before, because that's the other thing, just in that by creating this foundation, some people from corporate, after they arrive to be an entrepreneur, and they don't like it, because when you do this transition in corporate, you said to the people, this is not my job, and it's okay. But when you're an entrepreneur, everything is your job, and some
Yep.
people want only the free time, but when until the business, until you reach this point that you have free time and you manage your own calendar and you have freedom in your life, it's gonna be a time that everything's gonna be your job. And so tell us just in one thing. Number one, how you face adversity, right? And what what do you recommend to people in corporate that want to do the transition to entrepreneur in terms of foundation? I want to enhance this because I think that
Yeah.
it's amazing how you plan it, and will be a great benefit for our audience if you can expand a little bit more on this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, just some of the things that we did, and I think, everybody's transitional foundation will be different, right? We didn't have kids, we didn't have the overhead that, you've got to be planning for the future and things like that. It was just my wife and I. And so some of the things that we did was we bought a duplex that was cash flowing. So we had some passive income coming from that. We owned a condo in Philadelphia that we ended up moving out of and renting. So we had another investment property there that was cash flowing. And we we did kind of the exact opposite of what a lot of our friends were doing, from the standpoint that, most of our friends were moving to the suburbs, buying a house, expanding their life, having kids, things like that. And my wife and I were doing the opposite. We essentially downgraded. We went from a very nice big condo to a smaller 2-bedroom apartment. And the whole point of that exercise was we wanted to get, we had a decent cash savings, but we wanted to get our expenses to a point where my wife's salary completely covered all of our life. So that if I made $0 in my business, we wouldn't have to dip into savings to live. Now we wouldn't have been able to like travel and do all the fun things that we did. We could do the minimal things, but we were comfortable with that because we saw the potential future that taking one step back could literally be 10 steps forward, in the next year or two. And so those are just some of the things kind of financially and kind of structurally that we did to provide some financial stability, some passive income. So we still had some money coming in the door in addition to my wife's salary. And then it was really just a matter of kind of getting because I was going to take the risk, quote unquote. But ultimately, my wife was, you need a supportive partner, regardless of what that partner looks like, in order to be successful, in my opinion. I think, if she wouldn't have been super supportive of me, I may not have had the courage and ability to jump out and kind of take a risk, because you're not only taking a risk on yourself, you're risking your family, right? And so you're kind of risking their future, for a better future, right? Not just to kind of go back to the status quo. And so, that was kind of what we did to kind of jump out. And I think if you're listening to this and you're thinking about what I need to do in order to feel comfortable, your comfortable level may be different than mine. It may be more or less. I know people that have $0 in the bank, they quit their job and they start a business and they figure it out. That wasn't me. I'm very much, I need to have some stability. I'm not a burn all the boats kind of person. So I wanted to kind of make sure that I had that kind of comfortability. But again, COVID completely changed all of that, because there was no safety net. There was no going back. Businesses were literally shut down. Nobody was hiring for the first kind of 6-8 months. And it was quite scary, but I go back to luckily having a very supportive partner. She wasn't like nagging me or being like, "What are you doing? What are you not doing?" and all that stuff. It was very much we're going to get through this, and we did. So, but yeah, I think the platform or the kind of comfortability level will be different for each person. But I would say if you're thinking about it, I would talk to people that have done it, right? Talk to people that have taken the plunge, because just like you and I are sharing our stories, like, we're always happy to help kind of maybe have people, allow people to jump over the potholes that we got stuck in. So maybe they can be more successful or as successful, but faster.
Follow us for more interviews with the world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.